Live from Orlando, Florida, you're listening to the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, the voice of Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network and Bet Online. We're your hosts, Al, myself, Anthony, and joined by our man, our special guest from the close-up, Stephen Cameron. What's up, man? Welcome.
What's going on, fellas? It's great to be back on the flagship show. It's been a little while since we've done this, and I always love it when the three of us get together and chat. It's going to be a good night. Thanks for having me.
Always a good time. Perfect timing. The Magic are 2 games down in preseason. Should have been a third one, but unfortunately it was canceled and not rescheduled due to Hurricane Milton. If anyone is listening and has been impacted by the hurricane, man, I really hope that everyone is doing okay. Family is safe. Hopefully the property damage isn't too bad. I know for myself personally, the hurricane prep was so much work because we were expecting for the storm to be way more impactful than what it was. I'm personally super happy that we're now able to get back to a little bit of being normal, or having a normal day, because I don't know about you guys, but it was a little stressful. If you're in Central Florida, as big as the news outlets have made it seem, we were expecting for this hurricane to do some real damage.
Yeah, we definitely got lucky, man. I think that's one thing that being in Orlando allows us to, fortunately and unfortunately, I guess, but just the fact that these storms look horrible, when they're coming in, and then by the time they get to us, thankfully, they're not too bad. So for all of you guys that are listening, again, hope you guys are all doing well. We escaped a major one, so wishing that everyone that listens to our show, all of our subscribers, are doing well today.
Yeah, we didn't even know if we were going to record this episode tonight.
No.
If you guys didn't have internet, I know my parents didn't have power for a while and whatnot, but I'm psyched we're all here, and I'm psyched. So far, it seems like most people have gotten out of it decently okay. But yeah, thoughts out to everyone who might still be dealing with some of the nonsense. Hope you guys are okay.
Yeah, worst case, we would have did the podcast on 5G. We just would have had to do it on the cell phone, right? Yeah. No, but we got a cool episode today. Yeah, for FaceTime. We got a cool episode today. Today we're going to be talking about Wendell Carter getting a new contract extension. We do have a couple games under our belt with preseason, and we're going to kind of do our season preview for the 24-25 season. But before we get into all the details, just a quick word from our sponsor, Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, has every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. And then, Steven, I'm gonna pass it to you real quick, just before we jump into our Orlando Magic discussion. Let's talk sponsorships.
Yeah. This is exciting. For those of you who haven't heard it on my show, The Close Up, I've been talking about it. We, the Orlando Magic HQ, we are looking for partners to partner with us this season, or even in segments of the season, from local businesses that want to reach a local targeted audience. We, Orlando Magic HQ, we are growing. Our platform is constantly growing. We're getting new subscribers and listeners every single month with our content, and we're looking for people to partner with. So if you are involved in a business that wants to consider partnering with us, we'd love to have a conversation with you. So either shoot us a DM on socials, or you can email us at admin@orlandomagichq.com. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you.
Absolutely. Now let's get into let's talk about the preseason games first. So Magic end up going to New Orleans, playing against the Pelicans. Magic lose 106-104, and then most recently against the Spurs, the Magic lose 97-107. So I'm gonna pass it to you first. When you look at The first look of, and we can kind of go so many different ways with this, but we get to see KCP for the first time. We get to see some of our young guys. We get to see Franz Wagner back, Paolo Banchero back. When you watch the first game, what are some things that kind of stood out to you? I know we don't want to overreact because it is preseason game, and we really won't know exactly what this team will look like on the first regular season game. But what were your thoughts so far with the first couple games?
Yeah, I think the defense is what we expected. They seem to be in sync. They know exactly where to be. They're in the right positions when it comes to the defensive end. So that's to be expected. What we haven't seen too much of is, KCP, let's be honest, like game 1, 2 points. He bricked a couple of 3-point shots that he took wide open. So maybe some nerves here. His first game with the Magic. We've seen Franz also still struggle a little bit with the outside shot. So we haven't seen that yet where it needs to be. Jalen Suggs, in my opinion, forcing things a little bit as a point guard. I don't know if it's in his head that he's a point guard now. I'm like, guy, you were a point guard last year, the last, 50 games of the season. Don't overthink it. So some simple little things I think we got to fine tune before the start of the season. Kind of sucks that we lose a game here in preseason because now we have an entire week off and then we play one game against Philly and then games are for real now. But on the positive side, Paolo looks sharp. He looks ready. He's in shape. He looks like a beast like he always does. Anthony Black has looked really, really well off the bench. So for those of you that were saying, we'll miss Markelle Fultz, we probably will. But I think that Anthony Black will be a better version, a more polished version than Markelle Fultz was, at least last year. And how can we not talk about Jay Howard? I think he got a surprise start yesterday in San Antonio, 19 points, quick trigger to shoot those 3-point shots, which we love to see. Seems like, and I texted you, Anthony, this yesterday, seems like that shooting guard that we've been needing for so many years. Just a guy that gets the ball, shoots it, and spreads the floor for our other guys. So not to overreact. It's only one game, but I love the confidence. I love the fact that he was willing to shoot those shots. And again, he's not afraid, man. I love to see that. So that's some of the quick takeaways from me so far. Steven, what about you? Anything that kind of stands out to you so far?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I personally don't look at the box score and the end result. I don't really care if the team wins or loses because I kind of just view preseason games as just an extension of practice, right? They're practicing things and they're going to see kind of how they work on the court a little bit. And I look at this team and I see there's a lot of guys in new roles, and people are gonna be like, "What do you mean? It's the most." It's a very team with a lot of continuity to it. Yes and no, right? Yes, there is some continuity to it for sure, but there's also a lot of shift in roles. Like Jalen Suggs is trying to take more ownership of a playmaking point guard type of player, right? He did do some of that last year, but he's trying to level that up this year and take on that added responsibility and growing there, right? And he's playing with next to someone new in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Well, he's similar to Gary Harris, yeah, but he's still a new person that needs to find his rhythm, and they all need to build chemistry with that. So there's some newness there. Obviously you got Franz and Paolo trying to take that next step. And so these are all just little things that players are probably right now doing a lot of overthinking on the court. And that's why some of the timing is not as well. You think about the second unit and someone like Cole Anthony who's been struggling. Well, he's playing with, his role hasn't changed all that much, but who he's playing next to has changed a good amount, right? Instead of Markelle Fultz and Joe Ingles being really nice secondary ball handlers in that unit, Markelle Fultz even being a primary, the ball's a little bit more in Cole Anthony's hands. And he's having to get used to Anthony Black playing next to him. If we remember, Anthony Black didn't actually play in the second unit all that much last year. When he got a lot of his playing time, it was in the first unit when someone was injured like Gary Harris or Markelle Fultz. So there's just, and he's got a bigger role. He's got like you mentioned, Al, he's got the ball in his hand more. So there's just a lot more little adjustments that these players are having to figure out. And I think that's why we're starting to see, just some things that are not tight yet, and why some stuff looks sloppy and some players look out of rhythm, because I think they're still very much trying to figure it out. And we're only like a week and a half into training camp. So, I'm not overly too worried, but some things that looked really cool, like you mentioned, Anthony Black in game one, he was really aggressive. Like almost every time he had the ball in his hand, he was driving to the basket and either kicking it or attacking, which was really cool. And then in the second game, Paolo, like he didn't have crazy scoring, but he was really making a lot of smart passes. There's this one highlight that was going around where, he had the ball, Jalen Suggs cut from the corner towards the basket, which drew a defender just slightly off of Jet, and Paolo kicks the ball to Jet, who makes an open three in the corner. Like doing little things like that was really, really good. He did have a couple of turnovers. There are some turnovers that we need to get tightened up, but I think that's all going to come as these guys continue to get chemistry together and just, figure out how they all fit, figure out like Contavious Caldwell-Pope needs to figure out how and where he's getting his shots from. That's still kind of new for the team. So I'm not too worried that anything isn't like going great, and I don't really care that we lost, but I think there's some really good things that are going to come out of this. Like Jet, like you said, Jet's a gunner. He's letting it fly and he's making them. Gary Harris, watch out. Like if you go down for too many games and Jet comes in and crushes it, like you might not have your spot back if they can hold up defensively there. So, and Goga, how can we not talk about Goga? Wendell Carter went down in the first game with a rolled ankle. It doesn't seem too serious, but Goga comes in and has a really good performance. I think he pulled down like 11 rebounds in 9 minutes or something like that. And then in game 2, he had a really, really impressive game. I think he had like 3 blocks. I think he went like 5 of 7 from the field. It was just like a really, and he had like 7 offensive rebounds. It was just really cool to see Goga continue to step up and look even more improved than he was last year. So some of the thoughts and takeaways I have so far, I'm looking forward to the last game because that's probably going to be the dress rehearsal now that the third game is kind of out of the picture. So we'll probably see some pretty tight rotations in game 4, the last game, or game 3, however you want to call it. That's kind of how I'm feeling about him so far.
Yeah. So I said that I wouldn't overreact with preseason, but
let's hear the overreactions.
That's not fun. Let's overreact like crazy, right? So I didn't get a chance to watch game 1. Shout out to the NBA for putting these games on League Pass and not giving us any options to be able to watch it legally. But the game 2 for me, like just watching Jay Howard be aggressive and be successful was amazing for me. I had a chance to be able to watch Jay Howard in the G League playing for the Lakeland Magic, and his game didn't change. Like he was a sniper there. He's a sniper here. This is just his game that's not going to change for anyone. And Al, you and I, we were texting like, okay, he's hitting shots, but we know that Coach Most just is not going to play him unless he's able to get it together on the defensive end. And at that point, he had already, messed up on 2 different assignments. But the minute that I said that, a few moments after, he ends up stealing the basketball and he has a fast break. And it was just beautiful to watch. So there's so much potential there that I try not to get overly excited. But this is something that the Magic have needed for so long. And this isn't just him knocking down shots. Like his jumper looks good. Like his shot is smooth. Like every shot that he takes looks like it's going in. And if the Magic can find a player like that can do it consistently, and you can tell he's a really good shooter because he shot from the same spot every single time. And that's what shooters do. Shooters try to mimic the same shot over and over. He finds a spot that he's comfortable in, and he lets it go. And it was awesome to watch. He led the team in scoring. Obviously, it's preseason. But if he can find his way defensively, he's going to find himself on the floor. Like, we drafted him because we know that he can shoot. Everyone knows that he can shoot. You're going to have to respect him as a shooter. Can he be consistent on the defensive end? And then Steven, I agree with Goga. Like I love watching him play, man, because he is exactly what we want in terms of your big man, your center. Obviously, the money goes to Wendell and the responsibility goes to Wendell. But from rim protecting to grabbing rebounds to making the smart plays underneath the basket, like Goga is your type of center, right? With Wendell being out, like I have no stress over, the Magic are going to do so poorly now in the 5 position, and teams are gonna bully us around. No, man, I feel comfortable with Goga. I like watching Goga defend. Yeah, I like watching him defend. Victor Wembanyama. Like it was great. Like I love the confidence. I love his presence. I honestly, we'll get to the contract extension here in a few minutes, but there was a report saying that he wouldn't be able to be traded 6 months from now. I know a lot of people from a fan base perspective, they had their opinions, but Goga and is someone that you can feel confident in that can step up if need be, and he even says it himself, like he's ready to go. So preseason so far has been a lot of fun. My fear is the Magic go into the season not winning a game, right? So Magic have one more preseason under their belt. I'll ask you, how important is them now winning this next preseason game, getting that win under their belt before the season starts?
Well, I mean, it's at home. It's the only one that we're going to get to see them play at home against Philly. So it should be a good game just because both teams should be prepping up for the season. They should be playing their starters at least 25 minutes plus. So it should be a good game. I really don't think it matters if they win or lose. I just want them to play with more confidence across the board. I want to see Franz hit some shots. I want to see, again, Jalen Suggs turn it over a little bit less. Cole Anthony seems a little bit out of place lately too. Again, Jet is the primary ball handler of the bench now, which is something new for him. And also something new for Cole to now be really more of a shooting guard off the bench. He needs to adapt to that. So I just need these guys to really fine tune this next week, figure out their roles, understand it, and then just put a good showing at home. I don't think they have to win, but I do know they have to do a better job of just playing smart basketball. 22 turnovers, game one. I think 18 last night. Coach Mosley's going crazy over that. They got to be in the low teens for me to at least start thinking they're ready to go.
So now, before we get into the full season, we go into the full season with Wendell Carter getting his contract extension, 3-year, $59 million, who is now under contract until the 28-29 season. Steven, when you first heard about the contract extension and this happening right after his ankle injury, how are you happy with the contract? Do you have concerns with his health? What are you thinking about Wendell?
Man, I always have concerns with his health, to be honest, but we'll bring that in a second. So at first I was shocked. I was like, whoa, he got a contract extension. Like that was just kind of like, they didn't have to do it because there's like 2 more years on his current deal. And we're all thinking Jalen Suggs. Well, once I remembered that they actually have 2 different deadlines, right? Wendell Carter deadline to get extended was today, the 10th. So him getting it figured out a couple of days ago. We're recording this on the 10th. You're listening to it on the 11th. But his deadline was different than Jalen Suggs, right? And what it kind of seemed like to me, and I was just talking to Jason Beatty, the Orlando Sentinel beat reporter for the Magic, on our episode that you can listen to that came out a few days ago, is that, it sounds like he told his agent, he came out in an interview and said, I want to stay with the Magic, do what it needs to do to make it happen. His agent talked to the front office and said, we want to be here. They found a number that was some nice, good guaranteed money for Wendell Carter, who's got some injury risk. There's a team option on that 3rd year. And so the more I looked at it, the more it kind of like made sense. And it's only like 8 or 9% of the cap, even when it jumps up into that 18 million per year range as the cap goes up in those further years with the new TV deal. So at first I was like shocked, and now I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. It's cool. They're not going to be able to trade him at this deadline because he's not going to be trade eligible for 6 months, which brings him to next April. But let's be real. If they were probably going to include a player like Wendell in a trade, it'd likely be an offseason trade and not a deadline trade. And now they can trade him if they want to. That's no longer an expiring contract where, if you hit this deadline, you kind of get looked at as an expiring player, right? Even this deadline, you're kind of a rent. You got a year and a end of a season with the player. This summer, if he didn't get extended, he would be an expiring contract. So now teams can trade for him if the Magic want to trade him and it not be an expiring contract, a team can absorb him on a reasonable deal and not worry about it. So I think we actually added value to his him as a traded player. I think we can add value to him with this new contract. So the more I've thought about it, the better it is. Man, I just hope, my biggest fear is he's going to be injured too often and his body could potentially break down in a couple seasons, right? So it's not a death contract, even if he does get injured and doesn't, play much, but I think the dude averages like 53 games a season, which is not great. So I would love to get that up a little bit more, games played, and we'll see. I just thought it was like ironic that, the day he rolls his ankle is the day they announce his extension. But that's kind of like my initial thoughts and kind of where I'm at with it now.
Yeah, it was bad timing with the injury, and because that contract extension was happening regardless, right?
Yeah,
whether or not he got hurt or not.
Had nothing to do with it.
So it does a couple things, right? It keeps the core together, which part of the mistake that the Orlando Magic have done before in the past is just the changing of personnel, right? Maybe not so much from a player perspective, but from a coaching perspective. Like you want to be able to have that continuity. And the continuity works. Like we're getting better every single year, but also relationship building. Wendell Carter's sports agent is Mike Miller, who's also the agent of obviously Paolo Banchero. So you're taking care of their guy. It just allows for easier conversations to have down the road. One of the things that I did love to hear from Wendell Carter is him telling Mike Miller that do whatever you got to do to get this deal done. I want to be here, which to me speaks volumes because it shows that we have something good that's happening, right? Everyone wants to be a part of the team. They want to be a part of the growth. They want to be a part of Coach Mosley's basketball team, which is huge. I don't have an issue with the contract. I know people's love for Wendell Carter really comes from the value of the contract that we received for him. So you're paying a little bit more for him, but when Wendell is healthy, he adds a lot of value to this team. He's on your traditional five. Maybe he does prefer playing the four, but obviously that's Paolo's spot, so he's kind of a tweener, right? But I think that even with the concerns of him being injured, you have a lot of depth in that five position that from Goga to Mo Wagner to Jonathan Isaac, gaining 20, 25 pounds, 30 pounds, being able to play and hold people down in that five position is going to be huge also. So the Magic can go so many different ways. I'm not worried about him being injured necessarily for him particularly, but more so for the depth that we have. So Al, what about you? What are your thoughts on, Wendell? Or Steven, you got something?
No, I just wanted to add one more thing before we pass it to Al. So right now he currently takes up 10% of the cap space that this team has. Going in, once he hits his contract extension, it goes to I think it's like 11%. So it's really not that. Oh, sorry, huge. No, his contract extension goes to 10% of the cap space. He's currently making 9%. So it's like, it's marginally different as far as how it's actually going to affect the team's flexibility. But sorry, that's all I have to say. Go ahead, Al.
When you put into that perspective, it's minimal, right? And the best way I can put this also is you're paying Wendell, you're paying Goga pretty much what the Thunder paid Isaiah Hartenstein this summer. So you're getting two centers for one, pretty much in that scenario. I know we all wanted him. Magic Twitter wanted him a lot. He went to OKC, but we think about it from that perspective. You're paying Wendell, you're paying Goga. Well, you would pay only one center to be a starting center. I'll take that all day long. And to your point, we're now overpaying for him. So I think that this contract at the time didn't make too much sense. But when you think about the fact that we're trying to keep this core together, we're trying to get better every single year. You now have locked up pretty much J.I., Franz Wagner, Wendell, Paolo is next, Jalen Suggs is next. So you're guaranteeing pretty much the starting lineup is going to be here for quite a long time. And then KCP has 2 years guaranteed. The third year is a player option. So at the very least, you have 2 to 3 years of this core being together. And then you have guys like Cole Anthony also locked up as well. So from that perspective, I like what they're doing. I also think they're lining up contracts for future trades. So if the time comes, so you got to package Wendell and Cole Anthony for a better player, a superstar, whatever you want to call it, you have those contracts now. Like as Steven mentioned, they're long-term contracts. You're not going to lose them in free agency. So I think there's more to this but at the same time, you're making the player happy. So I think it's a win-win in the situation.
Yeah, hopefully Wendell does get healthy soon because obviously he's a big part of what we're trying to build. ESPN recently, they just came out with their basketball power index, and obviously ESPN, when it comes to the Magic, they never favor the Magic too much or highly ever. But their latest projection would be that the Magic's win-loss record will be about 38.7 games to about 43. 46.9% chance to make the playoffs. Projected seed about 8.6, so a little outside of the playoffs. So seeing that the Magic did have a successful season last year, ESPN is looking at the Magic to have a downward season. Steven, I'll send it to you. The Magic do a couple of things in the offseason, right? They bring in KCP. They go away with some of the players. The Magic did make some adjustments to put us in a better position to be a better basketball team. ESPN doesn't see it that way. Is adding a player like KCP enough for the Magic to be able to take it to the next level?
Yes, I will say yes. Depending on what your definition is of the next level, I will think if the next level is being a better basketball team, absolutely. But when I look at these numbers, that ESPN put out and they say 26 in offense, the Magic were like 22nd in offense last year. I can understand why there's still people out there that are skeptical about the Magic's ability to play efficient playoff level offense, right? We still haven't really addressed the point guard situation that a lot of people think we need to address. And we still, we've attempted to address shooting. We have to see it play out, but it's not like we went out and got like a high volume sniper, right? We have like a really good shooter, but still kind of an average 4 or 5 ball attempts per game. So I just think there's some things that need to be proven still in the public eye. What has me confused on the offensive side, but what has me confused the most is why they have the Magic, who were the second best team, I think, at 111 defensive rating last year, dropping down to 7th best, right? When you add a player like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope over Gary Harris, who is a better defender than Gary Harris, and Gary Harris wasn't exactly a bad defender, this team didn't get worse defensively. They only got better. So I don't understand. That's where my biggest confusion. How do you go from 2nd to 7th, right? It's still top 10, so it's not all that disrespectful, but it just doesn't make sense. So I'm like, where are you guys getting these measurements from? What data are you guys projecting that is actually giving you this numbers? Like, because this seems silly to me right there. The defensive projection seems silly. And dropping down potentially 10 wins, or is like 38 wins, that doesn't make any sense either. So I'm a little confused on some of those things. I'm not surprised about the offensive rate, skepticism, but I am confused about some of those other numbers that just don't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of funny because we weren't projected too high last season either, but yet once the Magic started winning games and the Magic were number 1, number 2 in the East, then you had all these people coming out on TV, the Kendrick Perkins, Richard Jefferson, saying the Magic are a good basketball team. It allowed for them to sound a little smarter on the TV as basketball gurus, because the Magic are a good basketball team. Not only are they a good basketball team that have very young talent, but we're also a well-coached team. So it doesn't make sense. I agree with you, especially when you add a player like KCP. You didn't replace him with Gary Harris because he's still on the basketball court. Like, he's still part of the team. We didn't lose him. And we didn't lose any player that, defensively is a big loss for the Magic. You can point at a player like Markelle Fultz, but even with Markelle, we know what we got, and we also know what we didn't get with Markelle Fultz. That shouldn't move the needle for us as an outlook on the defensive end or for any wins, losses. So it doesn't make sense to me either. But it's always what we've gotten when it comes to the national media's outlook on the Orlando Magic. Al, when you look at it, what do the Magic have to do? We've talked about this before, where Mike Miller on his podcast, he's had the conversation with Paolo about what's needed for him to take it to the next step and be a 30 points per game type of player. Do you see Paolo Banchero transitioning into that this season?
He needs to. It's not whether or not, we think that he's going to do it. I think it's that he needs to. He will be our max contract player here in a few months. But on top of that, I think that he's ready for that leap. He proved it's an all-star last year. I think All-NBA is the next step for him. So I have no doubt that he'll be a 25, 27 points per game scorer this year. I think he'll get more calls than he did last year. So I think he'll be more respected across the league by the referees, by the opponents. And as a result, we'll be a better team. KCP will help with that too. You have a shooter out there you have to guard. So you cannot just simply go out there and double team him. If Jalen Suggs is averaging another, 40, high 30 3-point shooting season, then hey, you got to guard him too. So now your options are limited to go and help out on Paolo. So I think that alone is going to make him more of a threat on the court and allow him to open up his game a little more and score more as a result. So I've always said it, man, our success is driven by how Paolo performs. If Paolo takes that next step, I think so will we this upcoming season.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things I love about Paolo is that he talked about his rookie season. His goal was to win Rookie of the Year. Second season was for him to be able to make the All-Star. His goal this year isn't even individually based. It's team-based. He wants the team to be successful. He wants the team to go deep in the playoffs. But we can't just rely on Paolo to be able to do that. Franz got to be up there with him. It's not Batman and Robin. It's 1A, 1B. And both of them have to have a strong year. So what we've seen for Franz is he's had a dip shooting from behind the three-point line last season. We've seen that transition into, the Olympics. Steven, do you still have concerns, or do you think that, Franz is able to turn that around?
Yeah, and I still do have a little concerns, man. Like, I don't have concerns that Franz is not going to be an awesome player this year. Like, I think he will find ways to continue to grow his game and evolve and become like a better playmaker, continue to be a better scorer and driver. But yeah, that shot from someone who says he's worked on it all summer, like, it's still not dropping. And like, I don't need him to be a sniper right now, but it'd be cool to see a couple of shots drop down. Like, give me like a 3 of 6 game in the next game, and like that would make me happy, something like that. Just to see that there's some life there. But like right now, yeah, I mean, I think he's hit 1 3-pointer in the 2 games, if that. I don't know, but it's like it hasn't been super encouraging, and maybe he's still just kind of like finding his way. I remember last preseason, Franz kind of started a little shaky, but then he came into the regular season and like looked really good. So again, I don't take preseason super serious, but yeah, I really do want to see Franz's shot improve, at least get back to what he was a couple years ago, where it was like 35%. And that would be a huge difference from last year, where he was a sub 30% for 3-point shooter. So Franz, get it together, man. Please. I need it. We all need it.
And then our team's young big 3. We talk about Paolo, we talk about Franz, and then it's Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs had a huge season last year. Debatably top 5 most improved player of the year. Someone that we will drastically lean on as we ask him to handle more of the ball handling responsibilities, but also from a shooting perspective, he was our best shooter last season. Is he able to bring that back? Is he able to show that wasn't a fluke? A lot of questions there, especially with his contract extension looming. Al, do you think that Jalen Suggs will get that contract extension before the deadline? And then 2, if he does get the contract extension, or if he doesn't get the contract extension, are we up for another year of, a higher trajectory of his development?
Man, we've talked about this a few times in the podcast, and I keep saying the same thing. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing drags on into the season and basically gets resolved next offseason. I don't think it's something that is not going to get done at some point. It will. But I do think a part of me believes the front office wants to see that Jalen Suggs, number 1, can stay healthy. Number 2, can perform again at the same level that he did last year. And if that is the way they go, I cannot blame them, right? Like Jalen Suggs, his first 2 years were not perfect. A lot of injuries, shaky play. He's now a point guard, no longer a shooting guard. How can he adapt to that? So a lot of responsibilities fall on his shoulder to say, hey, do you want to get a big contract? We're going to pay you. Just show us how much we need to pay you. So it kind of falls on him. And I kind of like that pressure. It forces him to have that kind of weight on his shoulders. at the same time, he's a great kid. I want him to get paid. Play it safe. If he gets hurt again, God forbid, he's covered. So that part of me also thinks, man, like, just get it done. But at the same time, he's a businessman. So it wouldn't surprise me if he drags on to next season. But I do believe he's going to be a great shooter once again this season. You can see it in preseason. His form, it's even better than last year. He's aggressive. He looks comfortable shooting the ball. So I don't think that will be an issue. And I was just thinking, like, when's the last time we had a team that had a point guard, a shooting guard, a power forward, a center, Franz in between right now, that can shoot the ball? Like, think about that. We haven't had a team with, that potential in a while, just from a shooting perspective. So I'm excited for that. I just really hope Franz finds his shot, because if that is the case, man, you got 5 guys that anytime can shoot the ball from 3-point range. And that will make us a much, much better team this year.
Yeah, I'd like to see, Jalen Suggs get back into NBA All Defense. I would love to get him into the first NBA All Defense. I know that, this past year was all, big men, and none of the guards, all the guards were in the second team, but I would love to be able to see him kind of push that envelope a little bit. I think the goal should be for both him and KCP to be in there. If they're able to both be all NBA defense, you're looking at 2 guards that are going to be creating havoc day in and day out against these players, and they already view themselves. I can't remember which player said it. I want to say it was Mo Wagner, but one of them had said, they've created this identity of teams not wanting to play the Orlando Magic, and that's how it should be. There's been so many years that we've talked about, how teams come here into Orlando and they'll go out, have dinner till really late. They'll go out partying before they play the Orlando Magic, the night before they play the Orlando Magic, and they didn't take it serious. And that's just not the case anymore, right? Teams need to get a good rest before they play against the Orlando Magic, because it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be a good coached defensive team. So I think that there's the Magic have a lot of different elements that is going to make them a better team. Doesn't matter what ESPN says, doesn't matter what the analytics state. The Magic have everything they need to be successful. A lot of that's going to have to do with improvements in their health, their shooting, and then personal development with some of the young guys that we have. So when it comes to next season, Steven, the big question is, what are your predictions that the Magic will end the season with? How many games are we winning?
And I just want to touch on the Suggs contract real quick, because I just have a mini theory, and then I would love to answer that question for you. Real quick, I just have a theory on the Suggs contract. I was talking to some people the other day, and this is kind of like how it came about. I think what happened was earlier in the summer, the Magic came to them with an offer and said, this is what we want to extend you at. And Jalen, and it was probably a respectable number, right? Like, they're not going to lowball him. But Jalen Suggs probably like, yo, I just made second team all defense, and I just shot the ball 40% at 5 attempts per game. Like, I'm awesome. I was healthy last year. And then, like you said, Al, well, he wasn't really all that healthy the first 2 years, and he kind of was pretty bad offensively those first 2 years. And like and he was probably like asking for a lot more. You just paid Franz. And so I think the two parties just mutually agreed to, hey, let's get into training camp, see how things go, and we'll bring it back up closer to the deadline. So I don't think it's like they're going back and forth this whole summer. It's probably like they had the conversation, it didn't line up, they're tabling it for a little bit further. Let's see if it gets done before the deadline. Now, Ant, I apologize. I'm supposed to be answering what about the playoffs? Please, can you repeat the question?
Well, just now, since you went backwards, I'm gonna go backwards a little bit too, and then we'll fast forward.
Okay, sorry.
It's a big highlight because rookie year Jalen Suggs only played 48 games. Year 2, 53. Third year, 75 games. So
awesome last year.
If Jalen Suggs can get back into the 70 games range, right? Still shoot above 35%, still get into first NBA. Take all my money, pay the man what he's worth, and call it a day. Lock in your big three for this team, because if the Magic is able to lock down a guard like last season, Jalen Suggs, and that wasn't just a 1-year thing, then the Magic are doing something right. But the question that I asked you that
I blew off,
aggressively ignored is
you, Anthony.
Predictions for this season. How many wins you have for the Magic this season?
Yeah, I honestly think they're going to kind of end a little bit to where they were last year, right around that 47, 48. Maybe they can hit like 49 or 50, but somewhere in that range of wins. people are going to get mad at me because I don't give an exact win number. You can yell at me, people. I'm sorry. I'm call me Brian Windhorse. I don't give projections, but I actually think somewhere between 47 and 50 wins, right? Which with this East getting better, right? Another year with hopefully a healthier Bucks team, and more chemistry with their coach. The 76ers definitely got better. The Knicks definitely like less depth, but higher end ceiling with their starters. The Pacers are going to be a better team, having a full season with Pascal Siakam and stuff like that. So I do think there's going to be competition. The Heat always kind of stick around. But they should be fighting for home court advantage. I think they should be fighting for that fourth, and potentially if something doesn't go right with one of those upper teams, Boston in that category too, maybe they can get up to third. There's a lot of people, despite ESPN's stupid power rankings, that have a lot of faith in the Magic to be a team that could fight for a home court advantage, and I'm right there with them on that. And I think they should be fighting for that. Probably realistically the fourth seed, but I think probably 50 wins. The Cavs are in there too. I forgot about them. There's a lot of really good teams in the East. So I don't think they're necessarily going to make a massive jump in win totals, because I do think there's going to be a big grind out in those middle teams to kind of get into that fourth seed. And I think that's going to come around a 50 win team to get there. And so that's what I'm hoping. I hope they hit 50 wins, and that's enough to get them into the fourth seed with a home court advantage.
So not only do you forget my question, but you also don't answer it.
Wow.
Crazy.
What did I do? I thought I was listening.
So I agree with you. I honestly don't care about the wins more so as I care about getting home court advantage. So whatever number gets us to that is my prediction. I predict that the Magic will be top 4. Because even if you say, the Magic are going to win 50 games this season, which it would be a huge accomplishment, that's only 3 more games. It's not like that could have easily happened last season if, we kind of just, finished the games the right way. There were so many instances last year where we made some minor mistakes at the end that cost us the game. So my prediction is the Magic will get top 4. I'm gonna do what you did and not put a number. It'll be more than 50 games, top 4, home court advantage, Magic make it into the second round of the playoffs.
Ask Al the question, because I
wait.
can't
I feel
answer
like
it twice in a row.
Al's going to give us an exact number.
I'm not going to let this happen. So let's go back to the beginning. Steven, give me a number. Just think about it quickly. Give me a number.
Okay, wait.
49 wins.
Oh, there you go.
49. And just a number. Throw it out there.
51.
Woo. So I'll be the pessimist in the group. I think we end up this season with 45 wins, which is too low than last year. It's okay. It's okay.
Let's kick him off the show.
Yeah, can we mute his mic?
Listen. Listen. This is my thinking. But guess what? I think that may be enough to get us either top 4 or 5th seed. The East is going to be a grind this year, guys. Last year, let's be honest. Let's not kid ourselves. Those last 2 to 3 weeks in the season, we got a lot of luck going our way, right? Philly got hurt. Miami played like crap. A lot of injuries happened in the last few weeks of the season that truly helped us elevate ourselves to the 5th seed in the East. Can we do it? Yes. I think we definitely can win 50-plus games, be top 4. That's the dream scenario in my eyes. But if you were to give me today, like, hey, put a bet in there, I would say we win around 45 games. I think we can hit 47, but I'm going to go with 45. Ideally, I just want us to see lock in a playoff spot. I do not want us to go to the play-in, go that direction. That would be a step backwards for us. So if we make the playoffs, we win 45 or more wins, that to me is a successful season. From there, you now have playoff experience. So you should be able to play anybody in the first round and ideally make that a good series in advance. So that's my prediction. 45 wins. We get a playoff spot. I'm not quite ready to say that we're going to be, top 4 in the East right now. Hopefully we are, but it's going to be tough, man.
So just to put it into perspective, Steven, but before you say anything, just to put it in perspective, if you're predicting the Orlando Magic to win 45 games, last season, that would mean that the Magic didn't make the playoffs.
Correct. But that was on a easier Eastern Conference. I think that you'll have a lot more teams now that will be in that 45 to 47 range. And I truly believe that it'll come down to the last game of the season. It might be one game or two, that would take you from the 4th seed to the 7th seed. Kind of like how it was last year. Think about this. If we lose to Milwaukee that last game, we're in the play-in all of a sudden. Like it was that crazy how last year was. So I think this year will be even more competitive, unless crazy things happen. Boston suffers some major injuries. Milwaukee's injured again. All of a sudden that changes things. But if everybody's healthy, assuming that's the case, it's going to be a tough East.
So we have an awesome sponsor called Bet Online, and we can all three go bet the odds on the win total at 47.5, I think is what it's at. And Ant, you and I can become rich, and we can watch Al lose his money. And I think to be good partners to our partner, Bet Online, after this show, we should all go put a little friendly wager on it. Just throwing that idea out there. We can discuss offline, but I think, Al, I really didn't. That stung a little bit. I understand where you're coming from, and I get it. I'm not going to say your theory and your thought process is wrong, but I think maybe I'll go put a little money on it. Thank you to our sponsor, Bet Online.
I'm down.
Yeah. And listen, Miami Heat, they ended last season with 46. Three-way tie between the Magic, Indiana, and Philly at 47. Cleveland at 48. Milwaukee at 49. New York at 50. And then Boston were the only ones in the mid-60s. So I agree with you that it is going to be a grind. The East definitely got a lot better. Philly won't be at the 7th seed, or they may be, just depending on if they're able to stay healthy. But there's so many different elements and factors that it's not, the East isn't a walk in the park anymore. It's going to be it's a lot of heavy hitters in the East now. So
I'll tell you what,
we'll
man.
We'll see.
Those games against Miami matter a lot. So opening night, I think December they come to town. You got to win those games, man, because that's what helped us be ahead of them. Otherwise, we would have been playing last year. So we keep hearing from the players, from the coaching staff, every game matters. We now know that the importance of every game. Guess what? It starts with game 1, opening night in Miami. So crazy to think that way, game 1, but it adds up.
Yep. Magic have the final preseason game against the Philadelphia 76ers next Friday at 7 p.m., followed by October 21st to circle it. Last day for the Magic to agree a contract extension with Jalen Suggs. Then you have opening night against the Miami Heat, October 23rd in Miami. And then our first home opener against the Brooklyn Nets. That's a wrap for us here. Pleasure talking to you boys. Always good to be able to talk Magic basketball, survive Hurricane Milton. That's a wrap for us. Show is presented by Bet Online. Catch you guys next week.
For all the latest Magic news and updates, visit OrlandoMagicHQ.com and follow us on Instagram at OrlandoMagicHQ and on Twitter at OMagicHQ. Also, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your favorite listening platform.